Yeah.
Like even when I listen to your story, I can't wait till people play back and listen to what you said. That's why I didn't interrupt you at all. When you went in and you were talking about your family, I could just imagine how many young men can relate to that story.
Yeah.
I can just imagine. And like, yo, and he turned out like that. Wait, go back, summarize what he said, draw out a picture board, put all the stuff that he said he went through, and somehow that equated, right? Math equation. Somehow he got over here. No lockup, with his family, good family man, great job, want to be impactful in his community with young men in particular to don't not maybe have to go through some of the same challenges he went through. How did that happen when so many don't? How? I think it's important, again, to hear those stories so we understand it doesn't have to be your outcome. It is difficult. Let's not get it twisted. It is difficult to not go down those paths because in some cases they are kind of laid out for you. You know, that's why we talk about the school to prison pipeline. It is very likely that those things can happen to you, but it doesn't have to. But you need mentors, you need guidance, you need people, older people who care about you. If you're not getting that from, let's say, your family, your immediate family, you need those people to give you the game, to give you that guidance, to give you that wisdom so that you can choose a different path. Because a lot of us don't have that luxury. So we just make the same mistakes. And then because we're not, now I'm kind of pivoting to what men, we usually don't do. Because we're not comfortable and we're taught to never be comfortable to express ourselves, we don't give our young men the game. We don't. A lot of it could be pride, could be embarrassment, could be shame, could be guilt. But a lot of those things create walls that make it very difficult for us to open up to them, to tell them where we screwed up, where the guys I used to run with, or the way I used to treat women, or the environment I grew up with my family, and the choices that I made. If I'm unwilling to give them that game and that experience, they're in many cases doomed to repeat the same. And I feel like we can do better. I don't know if you want to piggyback or add anything to that.
Yeah, I was. You said something that connected to when we were talking about education and boys regulating their emotions and stuff. You know, I think what often happens is, we do a disservice to our boys to make it not okay to talk about emotions, one, and or it has to look a certain way, two. And then underneath that, the intentionality behind that, because when I reflect back on on me growing up, good student, but I had these big emotions. I did not know. I didn't know how to communicate that. In fact, I say this because we're healed and we're past this. But my mom's favorite word for me growing up was pussy. All the time. If I show any emotion, I was a pussy. I tore my Achilles tendon, RJ.
Wow.
In 6th grade, I tore my Achilles tendon. I said, "Ma, something ain't quite right." And she said, "Quit being a pussy." That was like the go-to. But I mean, I get it now. My mom, she was busting her ass, working 3 jobs, doing what she was doing. Like, who has time to deal with a young man's emotions, right? And I'm emotional. I know this about myself. I'm emotional. I'm very in tune with my emotions. I know that I'm a unicorn that way when it comes to being a man. Like, I'm very much that way. My youngest son reflects that part of me back to me. I see that in him. But at that time, like, who wants to take the time? Who has time? Like, you know, quit. That's just the go-to. Quit being a pussy. Quit showing your emotions. Suck that junk up. You know what I'm saying? So, it's funny. It's interesting to me. I think the conversations around like social emotional learning and stuff, and that there's all of this. It's such a hot button topic to me, and I'm like, okay, you don't like the phrase, but who in their right mind says we don't want to teach our young men and women, but especially our men, how to regulate their emotions? Because what happens, RJ, we don't teach them as kids, then they become men and they run through all these relationships with with destruction left behind them because we didn't teach them how to even have a mature conversation, how to be able to hold space for their feelings, their partner's
Correct.
feelings, and or their friends' feelings, and to navigate that. We haven't done.
Fact.
We messed that up. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So then
Yes.
it takes them. What is it? It's like men just marriage. Not that everybody has to get married, but I
Right.
think it's by like their fifth marriage where they finally settle down, and it comes way later in life. So we have done them a disservice, sent them out into the adult world, and said, take the next 20, 25 years to figure that out.
Yeah.
And
No,
and
you're
break hearts, break people's hearts and feelings on the way.
right.
Because we didn't teach you how to handle all of that when you were a child, because it's too difficult. It's taboo. Like
No, no,
that
no.
doesn't sit well with me.
No, 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 no. And I want to echo exactly what you just said, because that is like one of the biggest platform issues and why I'm here. Not only in my therapy work, but in this platform that we're creating, in this space that we're creating. I see all the after effects, everything that you just described, right? Because of the work, the nature of the work that I do, I see the side effects. I see what happens when you teach a young man to suppress, and I can speak from my own lived experience. And let me make a generalization. These are observations that I have made that I've been fortunate enough to make by the amount of people that I've been able to work with and talk to. Okay. One thing I always like to point out, in my experience, it's not even a issue within the United States. This is a global issue in terms of gender roles. When it comes to young men, I'm going to try to summarize and synthesize what you just said, sort of the lens and how I express it. We want young men and men to behave a certain kind of way in terms of being emotionally intelligent, being aware, being expressive, being vulnerable. But we do not create the right conditions for them to learn.
Facts.
Everything that you said, going back to what you said in the very, very beginning of this episode, there was no part of that conditioning that says, hey, son, be open with me. Talk to me about what's going on. The first thing that you said that I remember from your father was, I don't have time for you. That's the effect that it gives. I don't have time for you. If I don't have time for you, I definitely don't have time for how you feel. So shut that down.
Yep.
Then what did you just say a moment ago about your mother? Don't be a pussy. What does that mean to a young man? Nobody cares how you feel. Keep it to yourself. Suppress it effectively, right? We have so many expressions when it comes to young men to tell them to keep it to themselves. We say, don't be a girl, don't be a pussy, walk it off, man up, suck it up. All right? That's just a fraction of what we tell young men. What happens over time when you keep telling them that for their lifetime? Do not be shocked. This is the therapy side talking now. Don't be shocked when they're in a relationship and they don't open up. You can't be surprised. Nobody ever made them feel comfortable. You got to think about it. Not you, but for the audience out there. If you don't get taught to be comfortable with your mother and your father, the people who birthed you into this world, they're usually the people that we identify with and think they're the ones that are going to give me the most grace, the most patience, the most love, the most empathy, the most compassion. When you don't get that from them, how do you think you measure everybody else in your life? Do you think like, oh, Mr. Cook clearly loves me? No, I'm gonna be looking at him sideways. If my father didn't love me in the way that I would like, why would I expect Mr. Cook to? He's not even my father. Right? So we don't create the conditions for young men to actually be able to be vulnerable. So what happens? As you just pointed out, and it was very accurate, we have failed relationships, failed marriages. Sometimes we have poor or non-existent relationships with children, and then the cycle continues. So that's a big reason why I'm even here, why I'm reaching out to brothers like you, because I know that we need to see it. We need to see this level of vulnerability, and that we're, it's okay. It is absolutely okay to talk about how we feel, to talk about where we failed, to talk about how we got hurt, but then look at where we are today. Not that we're perfect, we're works in progress. But it takes continuous effort and work to be on this path, but that you are justified and valid in expressing how you feel. I don't care about what you're told in your household. I'm telling you, it is okay to feel. But unfortunately, I am one voice. amongst a sea of individuals who still say that even though they want these type of men, they do not create the environments to create the outcomes for those type of men.
Yeah.